Thank you, Helene Bergman, for joining us all the way from Sweden. So tell us a little bit about the morphing of Swedish feminism out of a feminist movement into a state feminism.
As a young woman during the Vietnam War, and everything was very political here in Sweden as in the whole world. And then also the women started to look for we looked for our rights. And then it was a big movement. It was also about the sex revolution, because sex is a good thing if you enjoy it. But then, when this Julian Assange case happened, then I read this pre-protocol. I got it from a colleague of mine. And I also read what these young red feminists were saying, and then I said, what is happening? I can't understand. I mean, first of all, none of the women have accused him for rape. So everything is what I understand about a condom. You have to know that no one knows what happened between these two women. That's the problem here. And then this persecutor, Marianne Ny, I mean, the first persecutor put down the case, and then this new one, Marianne Ny, together with this former jämställdhetsombudsman, it's a civil servant for the state. Mm-hmm. And he is now a lawyer. So they two together.
Is this Klaus Borgström?
Yes. I mean, he has a history of this, the equal rights and opportunity doctrine, and he was from the government. He was a civil servant from the government.
Yes.
For the government. So if you have this context, that this is in Sweden, the equal rights and opportunity doctrine, this is a law. Mm-hmm. So then, and they were working on a new sex law. Will also involve sex harassment and everything with sex. And then these two women, one of them, she took the other one, and then they went to the police and asked if they could force Julian to make an HIV test. Mm-hmm. Afterwards. Concerning Julian, I have heard he will never ever be accused of rape or convicted of rape. Never ever. There is no evidence of that. Never ever.
Mm. So if he ended up in Sweden, you think the prosecution would lose?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. The problem here is that now is the media, and that's what I'm so angry about, that the media, the mainstream media, the same moment that these headlines came out about Julian has been accused of rape, then the media, my colleagues, started a smear campaign against Julian, and it's also the former chairman of the Club of the Publicists. I knew her. She wrote a chronicle that she said that Julian is not a saint, not Robin Hood. He can go back. I don't care if he goes to the United States. And when I read that, I knew her. And when I read that, I said, "What is this?" Journalists in Sweden don't read facts. I mean, I'm a journalist. I have read this protocol. I'm not, as a journalist, I read facts. I should never have defended Julian if I didn't believe in what I have read from the pre-protocol. Mm-hmm. This could anyone, especially in Sweden, journalist in Sweden do. And if they read it, they should have stopped with all these things. Mm. He's coming here to Sweden, he will be in custody. One of his lawyers had written in The Guardian about this system, and that is very hard. I mean, you are sitting in a cell. I've been into those custodies to interrogate, to make interviews with some of them. But I think he is more afraid of being extradited to the United States from Sweden. And that, I think, is much more serious, because I I have read a lot of statesmen here, and no one is saying that he won't be extradited to the United States.
WikiLeaks and Assange supporters are deeply, deeply concerned about the extradition to the United States.
Yeah.
From what we know and what we've all researched together and shared with each other, the United States and Sweden have a bilateral agreement in which he could be temporarily surrendered to the United States.
Yeah.
And of course, Sweden has a fairly consistent track record of extraditing to the United States where requested.
Yeah. And I will tell you that one of those men who extradited the Egyptians was Thomas Bodström, our Minister of Justice, and he is working together with Claes Borgström. They have a advocate bureau together.
So you're saying the man that is the associate of Claes Borgström, the lawyer for the two women, his associate participated in the extraordinary rendition of people for the United States.
Yes.
Is that a well-known thing in Sweden? Like, do the population know that?
It's a well-known question among journalists, I think. But you should know that everything like this is not making big headlines. It's you have to search for this information as a journalist.
You mentioned earlier that in some respects you think perhaps people around the world know more about what's going on with Julian than the people in Sweden.
Yeah. Because the mainstream media isn't writing about these things.
In Australia, we have incredibly high concentration of ownership. Obviously, Murdoch is a big one. Is Sweden diverse in terms of ownership?
Sweden is a small country. We are just 10 million people. And there is a media concentration, of course. It's a Bonnier family. They are owning a lot of things. A lot of newspapers, TV stations. A concentration. The men, women as well, in power in Stockholm always meet together. And of course, this is what's happening. It is like that. I mean, you know that. You know it.
Yes.
And that's why I think because we have been discussing, I mean, I have some good journalistic colleagues. What is happening here? What is happening here? I can tell you that my first article on Newsmill, that our free debate site here in Sweden, my first article about this Assange case, I offered it to Aftonbladet, the biggest tabloid. The first day they said, "Oh yes, we will print it. Of course we will print it." Next day, "No, we will print it on the Sunday," and the next day, "No, we don't want to print it."
So what do you think? What do you think went on?
I think that my first article, I haven't translated that, but was too critical to this movement in the newspaper. They didn't dare to print it because they are friends. Then they had got criticized.
Right.
And also, it is like this. When Julian, I have talked with Christine, and she said something very important. She said that if a man is accused of rape, no women won't dare to support him, and no men dare to support him either, because then they can be accused of rape as well. I mean, this is guilt by association.
It's a very similar thing to what's happened in the feminist movement, isn't it? You can't criticize women, and so then when a woman makes an accusation, no matter how foundless it is, somehow all women, and particularly women in public discourse, are scared that someone will gang up on them.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a social pressure.
Yes. And it's a very effective way to silence people from speaking out.
Exactly. Very, very effective way. Sometimes I really hope he will come here so that he will be cleared.
Mm.
And then I will really, really look and see what all these journalists and my colleagues have been doing.
Mm.
I mean, I have met Julian myself. He has been accused of being arrogant, and all my colleagues are very arrogant and narcissistic. I was thinking of this, could it be this culture thing that Julian, with his strong mother, he has seen a lot of strong women in his life, coming to Sweden that he had read about, and then he meet this kind of women. I think he's just surprised. What happened?
Yeah.
What happened?
What are your feelings about him getting asylum? Do you think it's a possibility? Do you have any feelings about what's going to happen to him?
Yes, I think he will get the asylum because I think that Ecuador want to be strong and also to show the Western countries. Ecuador have to be smart. I mean, it's the United States, it's Sweden, it's Britain as well. So they have that what I think that they are figuring out how to do it the smartest way.
If Julian doesn't get asylum and he gets handed back over to the United Kingdom, of course what will happen then is he will go to Sweden. What do you think will happen when he gets to Sweden? Do you think that the United States will unseal their secret grand jury indictment and apply to extradite him?
I don't think that Sweden will do it publicly. I think if that's the case, they will do it in secret.
How would they make it look like a secret?
Everything can happen in secret.
Yes.
You can just disappear. It's very, very easy to take people away. Myself, I've been warned here when I'm working with my Bangladeshi reportage. Be careful. Be careful. Suddenly it's a car who drive over you, or suddenly something is happening. If it will be proof that Sweden have extradited him to United States, then the Swedish people will be awake, really, because then people will mobilize. The old Swedish conscience will be awoke.
What is your hope for Julian and for WikiLeaks?
Well, my hope is that he will come to Ecuador, and that I hope with Ecuador that they are proud. So if they have had a decision, they stand for it. Mm-hmm. They dare to stand for it. They have the courage to stand for it. If they decide to take Julian, I think they will protect him.
What do you think will happen to him in Ecuador? There's been some suggestion that there are so many poor people in Ecuador, it'd be really easy to hire someone to assassinate him.
Yeah. Julian has chosen this life, and I'm sure of that he has counted with the risks. Mm. Mm. And if you choose a life like this, I have very, very close friends as war photographers. Journalists are working abroad in very risky fields, and they always know that they can be killed. Julian is like a soldier. This is a war. This is a war, really a war. And then I think he counts with that. You do that if you choose this way of living. If anything should happen to Julian, he will be a martyr. Mm. And if an organization have a martyr, it's even more stronger. This is the history is saying that.
Yes.
It's very sad, but this is what is going to happen. So if I was the United States, I would never make a martyr out of Julian Assange.